They've all been lying to us from the beginning. The Gnostic Gospel of Judas. Several ancient Gospels were not recognized when the Church forged, in 325 at the Council of Nicaea, the canonical dogma limited to 4 Gospels. To convince yourself, you just have to read the fascinating Gnostic writings of the Nag Hammadi Library, a collection of Christian texts from the 2nd and 3rd centuries, discovered in Egypt in 1945, including a Gospel according to Thomas, presenting a philosophical side of Christ by revealing an inner quest. In June 2006, a Gospel of Judas, presenting the famous traitor of the Christian tradition as a close friend of Jesus, was published by the famous Parisian publisher, Flammarion. Found in the sands of the Egyptian desert, this text brings about a real reversal of perspective on Judas, who appears as an initiate. The history of the revelation of this text to the public begins in June 2001, when the famous teacher Rodolphe Casser, chairholder of a rare science department at the University of Geneva, co-optology, studying the ancient Greek spoken by the Egyptians, is invited for a coffee, in Zurich, by an antiquities dealer, Frida Chakos. She asks him if he is interested in translating an 18th-century-old Coptic codex, a book sewn together from papyrus, which presents itself as a Gospel of Judas. The teacher's interest is obvious. From the beginning of Christianity, the existence of this text was known. The Gospel of Judas existed, historians knew it. The book is even cited in 180 by Saint Irenaeus, one of the first theologians of the nascent Orthodox Church. The Gospel was locked in a cardboard box, says Rodolphe Casser, in a house in Yverdon-les-Bains in Switzerland, cluttered with hundreds of works in Coptic, Greek dictionaries, books relating to the Gnostic Christian faith, that of many early Christians. I have never seen a manuscript in such a pitiful state, torn into 3 pieces, falling apart, crumbly at first touch. On the first page one could read in Coptic distinctly, Gospel of Judas. I was overwhelmed that a text so symbolic of the diversity of early Christian thought should reappear after 16 centuries. Above all, I felt very proud to have been chosen to explore this treasure of humanity. In the first centuries after Jesus Christ, the Gnostic Christians told a different story from the first Gospels, gnosis, secret knowledge. It was the Gnostics who, in the 2nd century, made known the Gospel of Mary Magdalene, presenting her as an initiate very close to Jesus, opposing the Apostle Peter. For them, the universe was created imperfect and crude, as evidenced by the violence and instincts of animals, by an evil demiurge, likened to Yahweh, the God of wrath. Only the souls of men, imprisoned in their mortal, material and demanding bodies, are divine, and connected to the true, immortal and just God, the God of love that they can discover through initiation. After the Council of Nicaea in the year 325, all Gnostic texts were deemed inadmissible. They were no longer read in churches, they were forbidden from being copied by monks, sometimes destroyed, they were stigmatized as heretics. Recalcitrant priests were put to death from the year 385. The Gospel of Judas becomes heretical. According to this Gospel, only Judas truly understands Jesus. He understands that Jesus delivers the word of the true God, the Christian God of love, and not that of Yahweh, considered by Gnostic Christians as a God of violence and hatred, a warrior and persecutor God, an intermediary deity. Thus, Judas says to Jesus, I know who you are and where you came from. You come from the immortal kingdom of Barbelo. And the name of the one who sent you, I am not worthy to pronounce it. He knows that a God of knowledge and spirituality, named El or Barbel, reveals himself in Christ. This is why Jesus separates Judas from the apostles to initiate him. He asks him to hand him over to the Romans, so that Jesus says, the man who serves as my fleshly envelope may be sacrificed, and he may regain his divine state. This reversal of the role of Judas, presented as an initiate, comments Rodolphe Casser this rereading of the hidden meaning of the life of Christ. These considerations on Yahweh considered as a false god, show how much this gospel is part of the Gnostic tradition, both distant from the Jewish religion and from Christian orthodoxy, and he adds sharply, we would never have known of this interpretation and of many others which then crossed all of nascent Christianity, if it had not been translated into Coptic and hidden in the 4th century by the Gnostics of Alexandria, as were the apocryphal Gospels of Nag Hammadi, which also disappeared for centuries. In the 360s, after the Council of Nicaea, worried, the Gnostic thinkers decided to save the manuscripts banned by the new hierarchy. They enclosed them in earthenware vases, buried them in the desert of Egypt. It was there that they would reappear 16 centuries later, like the Gospel of Judas and many others. Thus in Nag Hammadi, north of Luxor in 1945, a peasant named Muhammad Ali Samam unearthed a 1-meter-high jar. He opened it and discovered, very disappointed, 13 codices tightly packed in leather cases. The secret books were thus saved.